Hey, Jim Salmon's here, the Kayak Fishing Show live. Had some issues getting started today. My camera wouldn't connect. And then so I rebooted the computer, and then my computer decided it needed to do an update. So kind of getting a late start. I guess it was just kind of nature of the beast today because I've been kind of busy and I totally forgot to even schedule a guest today. So you just got me. So if you got any questions for me today, always love to hear them. And of course, we, as always, are, well, this is different. There we go. We are brought to you by Ballast Point Brewing Company. Today I'm having the Ballast Point Lager. This is their 99 calorie, kind of a lighter beer, kind of nice for a hot Friday afternoon. So cheers to you all. My wife and I are actually going to dinner at Ballast Point this evening. So if you happen to be at the Ballast Point in Little Italy this evening and you see me, say hi. But again, cheers, happy Friday. Got a couple comments here or questions already. Hey, Sean, how you doing, man? Eric, Michael Guerrero, what's up? I'm in San Diego. Nice. Yeah, it's hot today, actually. Quite warm. It's been very warm this week. Like I said, it was a good year to decide to get air conditioning in the house. So yeah, I started getting kind of busy this week. I did get out fishing on the boat. My wife and I took her boat out on with my sister actually on Sunday, or was it Saturday? I don't remember. Had some basically very casual fishing. Went down off Imperial Beach and got some really nice sand bass. My wife caught the biggest fish and the most fish. Finished it up inside the bay, catching the spotted bay bass. A lot of fun. But what I wanted to share with you about that trip was actually we were using some of Patrick Sebile's new lead heads. These are actually the same lead heads that he uses on his bucktails, but I was using it with one of his big what's called the curly min. So it's a big curly-tailed lure made out of the same material as the hyperelastic, so or the dart spin. Very stretchy, very tough though. I think it's called soft tough, as a matter of fact. So there's two different ones here, and I've got these are different sizes, but you can see the positioning of the ring on the two. One is farther back, one is farther forward. This is the swimmer, great for throwing the lure and retrieving, bringing it through the kelp and all that. But we were actually fishing the sand bass down on structure, and we were using this lead head. And I was super impressed. Now, I don't see how well you can see this thing. You can see it's got these wings on it. So just by raising and lowering your rod tip, it got amazing action. It wouldn't just come up and down. I mean, it would dart this way and this way very erratically, but when you lifted it, it shot off to the side. So I was really impressed with these things. I looked on the Band of Anglers website, and apparently they're not available yet, but definitely keep an eye out on the Band of Anglers website. He's got a lot of stuff that's going to be introduced soon on there. So if you like vertical jigging, I think this will be great for, like I said, it worked great for the sand bass, but I think for people maybe fishing rockfish, lingcod, anything like that. And of course, they come in a variety of sizes. This one's probably a 3-ouncer. I mean, it's a big one. But as you can see, here's a smaller of the swimming version. So great action, really imparted good action. That curly tail grub just got bit so well, and the hyperelastic material is so tough, even for toothy fish. I mean, we've caught pike and barracuda and all kinds of toothy critters with the hyperelastic, the dart spin, and they just hold up so well. The only fish that we actually had trouble with was when I was in Costa Rica and there were triggerfish. The triggerfish will destroy anything. Hey, Larry, how are you? Thanks for watching over on the YouTube channel. Jeremy, yeah, definitely good for lingcod. I mean, like I said, if there were lingcod around with that big curly tail and the action on this thing. I said I was super impressed. Maybe I'll try and shoot a video of it, because I actually was jigging it just below the surface just so I could see what it did. And it literally just would shoot off to the side. And then when it came down, it'd come down at an angle as well. But that was just with a straight lift up and down, so you wouldn't have to move it around a whole lot. So very, very cool. What else? Like I said, I just wanted to check in. I totally forgot to book somebody this week. The guy who was supposed to be on with me had canceled, and then I never rebooked anybody else. So anyway, so you just sit here and talk to me and drink beer. So got any questions? Talk about kayak fishing. I broke out the power washer and cleaned off all my kayaks and all that, because I haven't been getting them on the water as much of late, and cleaned up the blue sky. Definitely want to get that out. I've seen more videos on that new Torpedo motor. I previewed it from iCast, and that thing is, I'm really looking forward to kind of swapping out my dual motor setup on the blue sky and going with the single in the center that can be steered with the controls. Where was the guys from? Innovative Sportsman. Thought I had his card down here. Got everybody's cards except the one I want to look at, but I believe it was Innovative Sportsman. Anyway, they make the controls that tie into your steering, so that's super cool. So, but that new motor is so powerful and so quiet, and like I said, really looking forward to getting my hands on one of those and trying that out. As a reminder, you know, we have the deal with cyber fishing. So if anybody wanted one of these rod sensors through cyber fishing, if you go to their website, you can get 15% off on that. Use the code CYBERGYM, and they will give you a 15% discount on this. It is a cool item. I have been using it quite a bit, and it's very, very neat the way it tracks not only your catches, but you know, all your casts. So you know not only where you caught fish, but where you didn't catch fish, and that's a little bit different than some of the other stuff that's out there. But it also ties in with the weather and any of the other conditions, and it basically gives you an electronic log of all your fishing. So I thought it was pretty cool, and like I said, to get a nice little discount on that from cyberfishing.com. If you haven't seen, the actual sensor is right there, and that just attaches to your rod with a couple of bands or Velcro, and locks in, ties in with your Bluetooth with your cell phone. So it's really, really cool. Larry, when I'm paddling or pedaling my blue sky, does it bother your knees? No, it doesn't. It's actually and that's the thing that I love about the blue sky. Of course, I use the motors on it a lot, I'm not gonna lie. But when I do pedal it, it's the first pedal boat that I've been on that doesn't bother me. And it's not so much my knees, it's my back. Most pedal boats, you're seated low, your feet are higher than your waist, and it really, really kills my back. And I've not been on any of them that didn't bother my back until the blue sky, because you're pedaling, your feet are more in a normal pedaling position. You know, your feet are lower than your hips, and it's much more comfortable for me. And when we first got the boat, and I posted a video, if you haven't seen that one, I posted it earlier this week, of when we first picked up the blue sky, and on that day we were pedaling it. And it moves through the water really well. The new 2-bladed prop versus the old 3-bladed prop definitely works better. I know they have the eDrive now is coming out, and then you have to have the right prop for that, so it's not putting too much resistance on the motor, I guess. But you definitely, I went to a demo day on Saturday, and they had the blue sky with the prop for the 24 volt, because they've got different props. Like so they had the prop for the 24 volt e-drive on it, and they were pedaling it, and it was going nowhere fast, because it's made to put less resistance on the motor because it's such high RPM. But if you're pedaling it, you're going at a much lower RPM, and it's really not pushing the boat well. So you definitely want to make sure on that Blue Sky that you are using the proper prop. Hey, Dave from Glacier Bay. That's very cool. I actually saw another one here. Nick is checking in at 10 p.m. in the UK. Cheers to the UK. So it's definitely more of a drinking hour than it is here. It's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. But it's Friday. So I hope everybody's getting out there and getting on the water. Anything else? I just wanted to check in because I want to make sure we stay on our schedule of doing these every Friday. So but I'm happy to answer any questions or anything. I just really wish I had remembered to schedule somebody. Luke, curious how to transport your Blue Sky kayaks. I feel like I've seen a review on your trailer, but it's been a while. Yeah, I carry mine on a trailer. I honestly think the best way to carry it is either on a trailer, which I prefer, or in the bed of a truck. For most trucks, it will fit between the wheel wells at 48 inches wide. And it's very easy to lift and get into the back of the truck. I mean, it's simple. Again, with my trailer, I've got bunks on the trailer, and again, it's the same thing. I just lift up the bow and just push it up. It's really simple. You don't have to tear the whole thing apart. The boat is made to be taken apart. You can take out the pontoons and all that, but I'm not going to lie. To me, that really looks like a two-man job at least, because just holding everything in the correct angles by yourself is going to be difficult. So I would rather not have to tear it apart and put it on top of the vehicle. The bed of a truck or on the trailer is the way to go. And I really like the trailers. The main reason I moved to a trailer was because basically I'd been carrying kayaks on top of a rack on a truck forever. But I also went through a couple of trucks because of the salt water. Even if I rinsed them off before putting them up there, you still had that salt water, and it would drip down and get in the crevices like around the back window and all that. And I would just get so much rust. The first truck I had, I swear the back window was ready to fall out because of the rust. The next one, it was more hidden rust, but it was kind of between the cab and the bed. But I sold that before it got too bad. So if you are going to do a truck bed type of hauling, definitely get the Rhino liner. For anybody who spends time in saltwater, that really helps. But I looked at it this way, going with the trailer. Even if I spent top dollar on a trailer, I can afford to have that rust out much more so than I can afford to have my vehicle rust out. So the Malone trailers that I use work really great. They have all the accessories for my trailer. Actually, I have the Mega Sport, and I can carry my Blue Sky flat, and then I have 2 Krakens on edge on that trailer. So it holds the boats really well. Javier in Chile, how you doing, man? I would love to go to Chile. I think I just saw something. There was an earthquake there yesterday, the day before, though. I hope that wasn't anything serious. Hey, Steve from Palm Coast, Florida. I wish Florida was better to me. I was just talking to somebody yesterday wanting to go back to Florida again. It's like, God, I just have such bad luck there. Every time I go, there's a hurricane or a tropical storm or something. Chris Wegner, any issues with the seat anymore, or have they fixed the seat issues? I don't know what issues you mean, and unless you're talking about the seat not really staying up in position. I think honestly, because I tend to use my motors more than I use the pedals, I'm not pushing on the back of it as much. So I haven't seen the issue too much. My understanding is they have fixed the issues. and they've got some other fixes coming up as well, but I can't really go into too much of it. I haven't talked to them in a while. I wouldn't want to speak out of turn. I tell you one thing that I'm doing on mine is the gear track, that tightener for the seat. I'm replacing that with top loading gear track that is longer. So I can put accessories, just put them in and not have to remove everything to put an accessory on there, because I've got the controllers for my my Torpedo motors on there. But also just gives me a little bit more room for attaching something on there, a cup holder or something else, you know. So that's kind of what I'm looking at on mine. But I know the thing is that the boat's been out for not even really a year. So there's always going to be fixes, you know. They stay pretty fluid. They don't look at fixes as a next year model thing. They do them as they come up. So I know they have been working on stuff to make that a better boat. And I still say it's one of the funnest things to fish off of. I've fished off in a long time. Of course, you know, I put up the videos of it, of us on the blue sky, and you know, the number one comment we get is that's not a kayak. And you know, we know it's not a kayak. We know that it is not a kayak. It's just a super fun boat to fish off of. You can call it whatever you want. It's a personal fishing craft or whatever, but it's super fun. Hey Dave, how you doing, man? Happy Friday to you. Chris checking in from Nashville, Tennessee, not too far from Sparta, Tennessee, which is where Jackson Kayak is made. Chris, okay, that's what you were talking about. Awesome. Chuck Levy, how you doing, man? Cheers. Hope you're doing well. Trying to get on that bonefish. Did you ever get a bonefish down to the Bahamas, Chuck? I know you were going back, or I thought you said you were going to go back and get one. So hope you did. Chris, Sean, do you have much experience with 14 to 16 foot skiffs, Carolina, Boston whaler? Who else manufactures a good ride? I'll be using mainly as I use my John boat on lakes and large creeks, probably looking at 24 horsepower max. You know, I don't. And it depends on what kind of skiff. I mean, obviously Carolina is different than a Boston whaler. I mean, Boston whalers obviously have been around forever, and they are great boats, and I know a lot of people who have them. And then there's, you know, a lot of guys have the little flat skiffs and all that. So you know, just like anything, you got to look at how much weight you want to carry, how far you want to go, and you know, overall stability of them and all that. But you know, the boat I had before the boat we currently have was a 12-foot Valco that I had a 15-horse Yamaha on, and that thing went faster than you really wanted it to go. Super fun, but I would launch that through the surf in La Jolla and take that thing out a lot farther offshore than I really should have. But it was a fun little boat until it threw me out of the boat when I was offshore. And after that trip, we decided it was time to get a bigger boat. And then now I have the 22-foot, or we have the 22-foot Defiance Pilot House. So more of an offshore fishing boat. You know, it's super comfortable. I've got the awesome air ride seats on it, which really is a back saver for me. Having the Pilot House with my wife, and you know, and honestly, even in the spring when it's a little bit chilly, I just come home a lot less fatigued. You know, you're not getting blasted. So I highly recommend, if you are more of an offshore guy, getting the Pilot House. Have you adapted your Goal Zero setup to any battery other than Aqua? You know, I haven't used. I've actually got several Goal Zero panels over here, and I haven't used them in a very, very long time. I do use the Aqua batteries, but I've never incorporated them with the Goal Zero because the Aquas, you know, they basically give me a full day and they recharge very quickly. If any of you guys have the Aqua batteries and have had any charging issues, if you bought them recently, they did have a batch of their chargers that were not quite right. So if you have a bad charger, contact them, and I know they will replace them for you. They sent me a couple of new ones because I would charge them all night, and then I would go take the boat out the next day, and I would get a low battery warning on my fish finder. So I contacted them. I actually talked to them at iCast, and they said they had a couple of bad, a batch of bad chargers. And so if you do have the Naqua and you had a bad charger, they are, they're on top of that, and they've addressed the issue. Chris has a Big Rig HD, HDFD e-drive. Are you pedaling it or are you paddling it? Chuck, you haven't been able to get back? That was a cool place. It was a shame that we had kind of crummy weather, but story of my life. Do I have any e-drive intel by chance? No more than I know that they've started pushing them out. They are, I don't know where they are as far as they got them to all of the Kickstarters, and then they were getting them out to the dealers. So they got to be somewhere in that process. But yeah, they're very close. And like I said, the main thing there is to make sure that you have the have the proper prop for whether you're using the pedal drive or using the 24 volt or 12 volt system, because they are different, and you don't want to overheat the motor. But you also do not, like I said, you do not want to pedal that boat with the e-drive prop, because you're not going to go anywhere. Hey Mario, how are you, man? Cheers to you. Hope you're having a good beginning to your weekend as well. Benjamin, how you doing? Have the new Big Rig HD. Would love to be able to get my wife a Blue Sky. You know what? If you get your wife a Blue Sky, you're going to want to use the Blue Sky. I'm just not kidding. It is so much fun to fish off of. And what I always tell people is how when we're in a kayak and you're trying to cast over here, and then there's fish boiling here, and you either got to turn the boat or you got to do this kind of backhand flip or whatever else. If you're seated, obviously, and even if you're standing, you kind of got to twist your whole body. With that Blue Sky, with that pivot seat, I mean, you cast over here, you pivot, you cast over here, you pivot all the way around, cast behind you. I mean, it's just such a fun boat to fish off of. Every time I go out on it, I mean, we just laugh, and it's so fun to fish off of. Again, I still haven't launched it through surf, but I have had it offshore in some snotty conditions, and it does very well. I still don't know how well it would do trying to launch it through the surf, because it doesn't have a ton of rocker to the bow, so I don't know if you're going to get enough lift. But I imagine if I have enough power and use my torpedoes, I can just power through it anyway. But it's super fun to fish from. I can't say it enough how fun that boat is to fish from. So you're using the paddling version. Good for you, man. That's the thing, is I jumped straight over the pedal drive and went to motors, because I love to paddle. The Kraken obviously is a paddler's fishing kayak, and that's what I enjoy, is paddling. Because pedaling just has never really done it for me. But again, with the Blue Sky, the seated position of pedaling from there is more comfortable for me, and the ability to throw that motor on there, either the e-drive or the torpedoes. And again, that new torpedo that'll be out, they say 2020, hopefully sooner. But with that motor, it's so quiet, and it's got so much more torque. I think what it was, the original torpedoes, the ones I have on my boat, are about 1.5 horse or less, and the new one is more like equivalent to a 3 horsepower motor, and that really that'll get that boat moving. Chris, yeah, maybe get the FD pod later for the e-drive. And that's really kind of the cool thing about that HDFD. I mean, you just get the pod, you just drop it in, so you can start out as a paddler and upgrade that to a peddler if you want, or just go straight to dropping the e-drive on there. And nothing wrong with waiting on the e-drive either, because obviously, just like the boat itself, like the Blue Sky, and any boat, you know, when they first come out, there's always a couple of tweaks down the road that they'll see, because all of a sudden doesn't matter how much testing you do, until you get into real life where people are using it every day and using them a lot in a lot of different situations. You just never know what's going to come up on a boat. So it's always tough to buy a first year. But again, you know, Jackson anyway has done very well at upgrading, updating. You know, when the Kraken first came out, there was some issues with it. The way the seat sat on the plastic, so they had to thicken up the plastic, and in some cases they gave us a protector for the plastic where the seat sat on the plastic. So things are always changing. Don Hughes, eDrive. eDrive. It actually, I should correct this, because I was, like I said, I was just at ICAST a few weeks ago, and the big thing was it is the Flex Drive E, because we all called it the eDrive. But I guess there was something else out there that's already the eDrive. So with Jackson now, it is the Flex Drive, which is, you know, the pedal, and then the Flex Drive E, which is the electric motor. The cool thing about it, the eDrive, actually, I control it with my foot. So when I've used it on the Kusa FD, when I put it on there, and when I put it on the Blue Sky, you just control the throttle with your foot, and it's really easy. It's kind of a cool little system. Kayak Fishing Tours Panama, what's happening, man? You know I love Panama. I want to go back to Panama. It's been a couple of years, and my last trip to Panama, I went with Los Buzos. And it's a great organization. They do a great job down there, but we had terrible conditions. Kayak Fishing Tours Panama, is that the same as Paddle Panama? Because I know with Henny. But anyway, you know, we went down there several times with Henny from Paddle Panama, and you know, went to some awesome places. Also, I've been there with Pesca Panama, which unfortunately has changed owners, and I don't know that they're doing as well. But Pesca Panama, they had a floating lodge kind of deal, and that was also a very cool place. That's where I caught my very first really big tuna off a kayak. I caught it out on Hannibal Bank, and that was 125 pounds, big yellowfin tuna. I actually have a picture of it up on my wall, but I can't turn my camera, so. Okay, yes, this is Henny's business. It's a branch of Paddle Panama. Cool. I actually looked for Henny. I know he was around at ICAST, but I never saw him. So I was hoping to reconnect with him while I was there, but I never saw him. So if you haven't done so already, it's a good idea to join the Kayak Fishing Show with Jim Salmon's group. The reason I say that is that it will allow you to be notified more readily of when we're going live. If you want to comment, you want us to see your comments, you do need to do it over here on the Kayak Fishing Show page, because in places that it's shared, we don't see the comments don't pop up. But just to be notified that a broadcast is coming up, the group is, if you just join the group, you'll be notified every time. Hey, has anybody been to Guatemala? I got been talking to some people down there that were talking to me about doing a shoot down in Guatemala. So if anybody has info on kayak fishing or fishing in Guatemala, I'd love to hear it. Oh, you told me he was there, or told him I was there? Sorry, I'm reading here. Kayak Fishing Tours Panama, he's been to some Scoutmaster training. Is he doing something with the Scouts? What else? I got nothing. I just say that I haven't fished this week other than last Sunday, and I probably won't fish until next week. So I'm not going to go out on the. God, that was the one thing. I try not to to fish too much on weekends, but my wife, her days off are on the weekends, and she loves to go on the water. So we do. I go out on weekends. But man, if you're a kayaker and you're going out on a weekend, just keep your head on a swivel. There are so many knucklehead boaters out there. I was in my boat, but just watching people go zipping by kayaks. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of the kayaks are kind of knuckleheads too, because they're out in areas and not really paying attention, not using flags, or out in the dark without lights. And, just whatever you do, just make sure you're seen, because the worst ones for me are always the sailboats. Those guys seem to be so far back in their boat that they don't really see out in front of them, and they think they have the right of way, and it's brutal. So definitely, if you're going to be out on the water on the weekends, make yourself seen. What I do is I always go early in the morning, and then I'm off the water by about 11. If I'm going on a weekend, I'm off the water by 11, because your weekend warriors are really just starting to show up by then to go buzzing around and water skiing, and then the wind comes up later in the afternoon, and that's when all the sailboats are out there. So just be careful, make sure you are seen, because we don't need any negative incidents, and of course always make sure you're wearing the PFD. So I'm just going to wrap it up. Like I said, I just wanted to make sure I checked in. I'll make sure I have a guest for next week, and just keep our regular Friday thing going. If you have any suggestions for guests, anybody you would like us to get on here, let me know as that as well. Or if you've got something to share with us, I can put anybody up here. It's very easy. All I got to do is send somebody the link, and they can join us. So it's super simple. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope you all have a good weekend. Like I said, cheers. If you're going to be at Ballast Point tonight in that Little Italy, stop by and say hello. Guest Henny Murray. Guest Chad Hoover. Hey, you know what? Everybody should, hope you send out your thoughts to old Chad. He and his wife were in a pretty nasty accident last week. I don't know all the details, but I did see what was remaining of his truck and his trailer, and everything was pretty destroyed, and they were very, very lucky not to be hurt. So, send your thoughts out to Chad. Chad has been a guest on here before. It was a terrible show, honestly, because we had a terrible connection. So I will try to get him back on here, talk about all he's doing with the kayak bassin and all that. He's always entertaining for sure. Yeah, if you guys, or if you have products you want us to review, or you want us to see, or you want to share, hey, it's all up for grabs, all open. I'm not tied down to anything at this point with what we can show. So hope you all have a good weekend. Please make sure you wear that PFD if you're going out on the water. I'm out.
Oh,